righty. See what we got here. We are back. Let me see. I'm gonna try to call Nicholas now. I don't understand why this thing does this all the time, but we'll get it figured out. Um, let's try it again.
Hello?
Ladies and gentlemen, we finally have him on the air with us after the technical difficulties. Rat Pack Sports Show NBA insider, Mr. Nicholas Lane. What's going on, brother?
Man, there's a lot going on in the NBA, and there's been a lot going on with me too. But I'm here, and I'm ready to implement a Cody Cutter and get things rolling with you.
Yeah, man, it's been a little minute. It's definitely been busy, especially in the NBA. WNBA. If you want to go, we could go that route. Talk a little bit of WNBA. But the hot topic is the NBA right now, obviously. So we're gonna just jump, right into it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I watched the draft. After I, got in, I watched the remainder of the draft, which was about the last maybe 10 picks. But going back through the beginning of the draft, there's not a whole lot of names that I recognize on that list. A lot of European players that were drafted in the top 10. And it seems like, every year that list grows a little bit with the European player. What is your thoughts on the draft before we get into the individual stories? What is your thoughts on the draft?
Well, I think Atlanta was in a no-win situation with not a clear number one overall pick, like in next year's draft in 2025, which we can get into that a little later when it comes to the Knicks and Brooklyn trade. But to me, I thought the Hawks were in a no-win situation. I think the Wizards did what's expected, is taking, I'd like to think it's the most overrated player in the draft, and that's Alex Sarr at number 2. The Spurs, I think, did great at number 4. And the Pistons, another complete head-scratcher at number 5. Obviously, Bronny James got selected at number 55, but I feel that Detroit's pick at number 5 was pretty abysmal for what they could have done with how popular Donovan Clingan's name was around that number 5 range, where they could have traded down, still picked who they got, and would have been able to acquire something additional for them. I think the Pistons and the Wizards just keep banging their heads against the wall. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, I mean, some franchises just seem to make, the head scratcher decisions on a routine basis and wonder why they can't, field a competitive team year in and year out. And, Detroit, going back to Detroit, they made another move just before the draft by, getting rid of the head coach, Monty Williams. And they owed him a whole bunch of money. So I don't understand, when you owe somebody that kind of money, why you wouldn't rather just pay him and let him, coach out that contract, because you don't have, the talent on the roster to even be, pointing back to him and saying, well, we gave you the talent. You're not doing anything with it. I mean, then you go into the draft and then you make the most head scratcher draft choice of the whole draft.
Yeah, when they drafted Ron Holland at number 5, that was one of those, those gasps for air going, oh, why did they do that? The thing of, and we'll get into Zachary Richer here in just a moment, but the thing about Ron Holland is, and Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're at your pro day workout, and the NBA is a shooting league nowadays, and I know that you don't like that as much, Derek, but it is. And you're airballing threes to the point where you stop taking them, and Detroit is one of the worst shooting teams in the league. Their best player, Cade Cunningham, is a guy that needs space. A Sir Thompson, who they drafted in number 5 last year, not a good shooter. Jaden Ivey, not a good shooter. And then they draft this guy. I get it. He was the number 1 ranked player going into his senior year for his class. And yes, he has good defensive ability. He has a lot of intensity on the defensive end. He is athletic, but he can't shoot. I mean, if you're in your pro day and you're throwing up air ball after air ball, like, you can't trade down for that guy?
Yeah.
Like, how do you that's crazy. It's crazy to me. I mean, Reed Shepherd, that went number 3 to Houston, is like a flamethrower of a shooter. Just an absolute, just rock-solid guy who can shoot. He also, for his size, can be pretty frisky defensively, getting steals. So he at least gives you other intangibles where I don't understand it. I think that's the theme. You're putting Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman, and you draft Killian Hayes in the top 10, and you had to cut him towards the end of last season at the deadline. You are drafting guys who just can't shoot when your best player needs other guys who can shoot.
Yeah.
The only other player that's pretty solid outside of Cade that we could say is a rock-solid player is Jalen Duren on that roster. Outside of that, it's just a bunch of names where the media is like, hey, I kind of like this team, but at the end of the day, nobody can shoot, and the floor is way too clogged out there in order for Cade to do what he does best. And that, to me, is pretty sad to see.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. First and foremost, I know they had a G League out there, but I didn't know you could get drafted. You can enter the draft from the G League. I thought the G League was already, like semi-pro. So.
Well,
that kind of threw
like
me off.
If you come out of high school, you could go overseas, like obviously Australia, like a LaMelo Ball did, or you could play in Europe.
Yeah.
Like, let's say a long time ago, a Brandon Jennings did, or you could play in college in the NCAA level. We've been talked about in the show for a while that the college game doesn't quite always give you that competition that you're looking for. And now you're seeing guys go to the G League, play on G League Ignite, play in Overtime Elite, or play on obviously one of the G League teams.
Yeah.
And going against older guys or players that are on the fringe of rosters, but on the G League as well. You actually you can argue that you have better competition than playing in the NCAA.
Yeah, you could. Obviously, the NCAA is more, there's more teams and more players, uh, and all that. But when you're in the G League or the overtime, league, the talent is more compacted. So yeah, you could have, a situation where the talent level is a lot better, a little bit more mature from a basketball standpoint.
And we're saying this on the perspective of that you're getting yourself ready for the NBA.
Yeah.
You're not there to put up great numbers in college and then everybody expects you to get drafted early just because you put up good numbers in college. I mean, look at Dalton Knecht. I mean, he went number 17 and he was SEC Player of the Year. So it doesn't mean that playing in college translates immediately that you're always going to go as a top pick. Of course, if you're Zion, or John Morant, it's different. But I would just say it's not for everybody. And if you're looking for the best way to prepare yourself, then doing something like a Ron Holland did or the Thompson twins last year that went, the fourth pick and the fifth pick back to back, it works for you.
Yeah, it does definitely works for you in that sense. But looking at some of the other guys that was drafted after Ron Holland, and here's his weaknesses, and you brought it up. His weaknesses is decision making, big deal. That's a big deal at the professional level, and streakiness as a shooter. You talked about that as well with him, airballing, wide open shots. So it's looking like they drafted a guy that has the physical attributes to, play in the league from a physicality standpoint, but skill wise, he's not there. Needs some room for development. And unlike the NFL or some of the other leagues, you have 2 rounds. You got to make sure you get the pick right in the first round. You can't draft somebody in the first round with potential, and they haven't really shown you that potential that you're possibly going to be looking for at the NBA level. It's going to be a lot tougher for a player like that to put it all together when he's forced, right into the action from day one. You don't have time for this guy to sit behind anybody and develop. He's going to Detroit. He's not going to Denver. He's not going to Minnesota, where you have big men or guys that he can sit behind, not be in a rush to get a whole lot of minutes and allow him to develop properly. He's going to Detroit. They need a lot of help, and they don't really have any leaders on that team, and they're desperately looking for that. So, tough situation for him. Maybe he comes through, but he's got to get in the gym. He's got to figure this stuff out, because once the game starts, they're not going to wait for him to get better. They're not going to wait for him to develop. And you may be looking back in about 2 years and looking at this pick, and then looking at some of the other guys. You 6'7", 197, and you could have had, let's see, who is he, small forward? Yeah, small forward. So let's look at the next small forward that was drafted after him. Oh, another G League Ignite player by the Bulls, Mataz. How you say his last name, Nicholas? You know you good at that. Bull.
Booze, I actually don't have it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't have it.
Well, and then they went on a run. Now this we'll get it to the next two, who I think may be the better of the two that was drafted before them, which the Lakers took a guy and Orlando took a very good player out of Colorado, Tristan da Silva and Dalton Knight. Now, if you looking for a small forward that's ready and has shown the promise and been the guy on their teams, you could have took those two guys. I don't think, it would have been far fetched. I mean, the two guys in front of them, are they better than those two? Probably not. So I don't know, man. I mean,
the last thing about Ron Holland, and we'll get to Zachary Richer here in just a moment.
Yeah.
The last thing about Ron Holland is when we look at, yeah, you might have averaged 20 points a game with the G League Ignite, but how many shots did it take you to get there? What was your field goal percentage?
Yeah.
And Ron Holland's was pretty abysmal. So he had a lot of shots. That doesn't equal to good NBA play. And if I were a GM, obviously, of the Pistons, and you really like this guy, yeah, the number one high school recruit going into his senior season in the country, I get it. But who's to say that, with Memphis taking Zach Edey at 9, and you're like, hey, Portland's going to take Donovan Clingan here at 7. Donovan Clingan can play right now, and he's probably a little bit better than Zach Edey, maybe pretty minuscule. And who's to say that Memphis would be like, yeah, we like Clingan more than Edey? And I think those are just missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Or they could have even gone to Portland and say, hey, we want your 14th pick, before the draft. Obviously, Portland traded it in the Denny Avdija deal, which I think Portland did fantastic in that trade about. But the Pistons could have got creative, and I don't think that there was other teams in the top 10 that were fighting to get Ron Holland right there. So, to me, I think Detroit just completely fumbled the ball there.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people is in agreement with what we're talking about as far as Detroit and I mean, when you're the team that's got the surprise pick of the draft. There's a little bit more to it than the 20 points. 6.5 rebounds, 2.5 steals. I mean, you look at the stat line, you would say, he's a pretty good player. Where everybody else is saying, what are you doing? He's not a guy you would draft at number 5. When let's look at Detroit roster here. They won 14 games, so you got a long way to go to just even be in a competition of making a playoff. But the roster, they had just a bunch of guys. I mean, the most notable guy on that roster is Evan Fournier, and
yes, he is, and you know why, Derek.
yeah, I know why.
But, another team that we're seeing unravel that's going to be retooling here, and that will probably be an under 20 win team now, and that's the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks select Zachary Richer out of France, which was Victor Wembanyama's teammate. And we're talking about a player that is not. It's like he's a good athlete, but he's not a great athlete. He's an okay shooter, but he's not a great shooter. he had stretches where he was a really good shooter for a couple of months, and it's kind of hard to see consistency with him. He's long. He's, I would say, on defense, he's a little bit more ready than more on offense. But like I said to start, this was not a good draft to be the number one pick. It's kind of like a lose-lose situation. And they just traded DeJounte Murray like a couple of hours ago. So the Hawks, to me, are going down a path that they're obviously going to be rebuilding, but they have a dude named Trae Young, and, you know, his contract is obviously pretty large. And I don't think Atlanta they're going to have a hard time, I would say, putting things together this season. I mean, they have Clint Capella on the expiring contract, and this is where we should see a lot of Onyeka Okongwu as your starting center, especially if they go off of Capella. And, you know, what are they going to do with Trae Young? Is anybody going to put out a package for him? You know, there was a lot of rumors that Brooklyn could have in a Mikal Bridges deal, but we obviously saw the result of what happened with Mikal Bridges. But I think Atlanta is completely hitting the reset button. They value in the DeJounte Murray trade, who they just got a couple of hours ago, Dyson Daniels, who was a lottery pick, I believe, 2 years ago by New Orleans, that they're going to pair him with Trae Young, at least for the moment. It's kind of worrisome that when you don't have a path of how you're going to start your rebuild, unless they have a Trae Young deal in place, otherwise it's going to be really hard for me to see where the Atlanta Hawks are really going here. With Brooklyn and that Mikal Bridges trade, we already knew, and we see that they set the nuclear bomb off, and they're going to fire sale Cam Johnson and Dennis Schroeder and Daron Sharp. I mean, they're gonna clean house on their roster with all those first round picks they just got from New York. They got their 2025 pick back in that deal with the Rockets as a side deal. So to me, we see what Brooklyn's absolutely going to do, but we're talking about with Atlanta. I don't think they really have a path of what they want to do yet. And they're obviously going to be at the bottom of the conference now. But to me, getting two first-round picks, one good young player in Dyson Daniels, and just more of a filler for a salary with Larry Nance Jr., I don't think that's enough, because the Hawks did give up quite a bit in that DeJounte Murray deal that when they sent him to Atlanta from San Antonio. So I think it's more of a head scratcher for Atlanta. They were in a no-win situation in a bad draft to be the number one pick. And I think they took the player with the most upside down the road. And that's obviously why Zachary Richecher was the number one overall pick. But Derek, you didn't really hear any hype about this kid.
No.
He could have obviously gone number 4 to San Antonio if he wasn't the number one pick, because there's no way that Houston was going to pick him knowing that Reed Shepherd was a plug-and-play player ready to go, where Houston actually does want to win games. I still think their core is overrated. It doesn't fit very well, and they have still a lot to figure out. But they were not going to take a Zachary Richecher, number one, and obviously Washington wasn't, because I think Washington, for every Victor Wembanyama, for every Chet Holmgren type of player here, Porzingis, there is a Bol, and there's a Marvin Bagley or a James Wiseman. I'm not convinced that Alex Sarr is this dominant unicorn type of center player. He obviously went to the right situation for him to get minutes. It's not like he's going to be riding the bench. He's going to have a lot of playing time in Washington. He'll have zero talent around him besides Kuzma and Jordan Poole because they sent off Denny Avdia to Portland, which arguably out of Kyle Kuzma, he was the best Wizards player last season, obviously for a forgettable Wizards team. But I think that showed potential of what Denny Avdia can do. And, hats off to Portland. They made a good deal. But I don't see it with Alex Sarr. We have seen it with Wembanyama for years before he was drafted last season that this guy is different than others. He is built differently. He sees the game differently. And, there's a lot of red flags with Alex Sarr. He played at Real Madrid, and then he decided to go to the Overtime Elite, which is a step below the G League Ignite. So at Overtime Elite, Damian Wilkins, who played in the NBA for the Seattle Supersonics back in the mid-2000s, he was the coach at Overtime Elite. And when they got Alex Sarr, he said that he only wanted to play on the perimeter, and they had to teach him how to finish around the rim. Then he goes to Australia last season and plays on the bench. So he didn't take a hard path to get to the NBA, and he was only finishing around 48% around the rim for a dude that's, 7'2", 7'3", roughly?
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be not a savior player, but he has the skill set that you could say if he is really good, he could be Chet Holmgren, which is true. He could be. But I think
but he's not Chet Holmgren. That's the problem.
He's not Chet Holmgren, and Chet Holmgren was already ready coming into the league. Obviously, he had that foot injury, but we saw with a year off and how good he really is on defense without fouling, which is the key. I think Alex Sarr is light years behind that, and especially the path that he took. And if you're in Australia and only finishing at the rim 48%, and you're the number 2 overall pick, Derek, that tells you this was not a very loaded draft.
No, very weak.
Came to the top of the draft.
Yeah, and I don't know how many people actually entertain, trading back and maybe acquiring picks due to the fact that the draft is so weak. But you got to pick. You have to make a pick. You got to pick somebody. So, well, it's been a long time. It's been a long time. I've watched the NBA draft, and guys were getting drafted, and I was like, "Who is this? Who is that?" I don't even know, what he's done, what type of player he is. And I watched quite a bit of, college basketball. I know some of the guys in the bottom half of the first round, and the second round, but the top picks, I don't know a whole lot about them. And when you got the top picks of the draft, question marks, and then the guys you watched you thought was pretty decent go undrafted. Some of them went undrafted. The big man that played center for, I want to say it was NC State.
NC State.
I don't understand how he goes undrafted when he was one of the top big men in the country. I mean, I understand, like you said, the league is going away from the big man. They're wanting more shooters to spread the court. But I ain't seen a team not win a championship without a post presence. Like,
we just saw Boston win a title. Porzingis had a fantastic regular season.
Yeah.
Obviously, he got hurt during the playoffs. But all jokes aside, I mean, obviously Boston was able to get to the finals. But even when Porzingis played, he made an impact in that finals series quite a bit against a Derek Lively, against a Daniel Gafford. That Porzingis played really well.
Yeah, and to your point of that, you mentioned Gafford and Lively. These are guys that Dallas, made moves to get, at the trade deadline because they were sitting on somebody else's bench or not playing as much, and the teams didn't believe in them, and then they go to Dallas and they make instant impacts, and then Dallas ends up in the NBA Finals, due to the fact of their rotation with those two guys.
Yeah, Daniel Gafford played at Washington. Obviously, they were so bad, they got him at the deadline. Derek Lively was their rookie, but P.J. Washington was their other deadline acquisition, their power forward, who dominated during the Thunder series and was a huge part of why Dallas beat OKC. But he was obviously really bad in the Boston series. And, Dallas ran out of gas. It's really what happened. Luka was pretty exposed on the defensive end. And Dallas just got absolutely dump trucked all series.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close with how good Boston's depth was, even without Kristaps Porzingis out there. So, to your point about and how these guys are good names in college, but yet they're not picked in the top 5. I think obviously the draft, you're looking at potential.
Yeah.
You're looking at size of how long your arms are, how good your lateral quickness is. Are you good with the decision making? Can you shoot? But if you can't shoot, can you be coached? And there's a lot of these guys at 23 that have already hit their peak, or they've already hit how good they're going to be. Yes, they're going to be impact players immediately, but they don't have that superstar ceiling. And that's why a lot of your 23-year-olds don't always get picked very high.
Yeah.
Mikal Bridges is probably an exception, but yet Mikal Bridges hasn't made an all-star team. He's never made an all-NBA team. He made it on the defensive side before, but he's never made it offensively. So to me, I think that more answers your question, the best that I can give you on that. We saw Donovan Clingan go number 7 to Portland.
Yeah.
And we obviously saw Zach Edey go number 9 to Memphis. So at least with some of the names that you would be familiar with, they still did go in the top 10. But we're looking at, the kid that Charlotte took at number 6. He is a young French kid that played a league below Zachary Risacher, but we're talking about a guy that has a built-in intangible at his age that doesn't really exist, and that is extreme intensity at what he does on the floor. He's kind of like the guy in a pickup game that he goes too hard and you want to fight him after the pickup game because you're really annoyed by that.
Mm-hmm.
He's that type of a player. So Charlotte needs that type of a player. They need somebody with intensity because they're a walking doormat defensively. They're terrible. They're absolutely horrendous on the defensive end. And so I can see where at his age, with his length, with his potential, that he could be a 6th overall pick. But yet you get the kid from NC State, the bigger guy that's not drafted at all. He's probably undersized for his position. He doesn't run the floor very well. He doesn't shoot from the outside, but he dominates in the paint.
Yeah.
So that's where I would say, unfortunately, that's why it is that way.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a reason why, and sometimes those guys, they, whoever gives them the opportunity to play in the NBA, usually they come in with a chip on their shoulder. They were good players in college, just, undersized or whatever the case may be. They come in and they do well because, again, we've seen smaller guys in the post playing as big have pretty good seasons and pretty good careers because they could just flat out play basketball. Now, big man from NC State, he might be a smaller big, but the dude footwork in the post and the knowing how to use his body as a smaller big, you couldn't do nothing with him. You couldn't do nothing with him at NC State. He was getting whatever he wanted. So, understand, where the league is going at as far as, wanting more shooters and spreading the court and everything like that. But at the same time, you need players like that. I mean, guys have made careers as undersized players just because how hard they go. They play defense. They do the little things that matter.
Look at it like this, Derek. If we're talking about the NC State kid, would you say the last guy that was a post-dominant big, undersized for his position that made an all-star team, Al Jefferson? Would you say that that's about how long ago we have seen that happen?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I would say yeah.
And he was awesome in the league. He was one of the best dominant post offensive big men around. I mean, and he stayed in the league for a while because of that reason. But he also wasn't an explosive athlete. He obviously got his shot off, but he wasn't, obviously spinning around the guy and then throwing up a big dunk without getting it blocked.
Yeah.
He was crafty with a lot of his post up. He was a bully ball guy too.
Yeah.
But I just think a lot of the league doesn't play that way. And for me, with Zach Edey at number 9, I think he's going to have a hard time staying on the floor for extended periods, even though in college he played just as many minutes as possible. But I think in today's NBA, players like Zach Edey will have issues. Yes, he is crazy big. He's a fantastic shot blocker. He can dominate with his left hook. I understand all of that. He's a terrific screener, but so is Steven Adams.
Yeah.
And Steven Adams has been hurt, and he wasn't his fast, agile self like he was younger in Oklahoma City. He's a little bit slower, and he's a bruiser, and he doesn't do anything but set screens, and he's a good rebounder. He's a tough guy. Like, I worry that Zach Edey is good. I see a lot of the big networks saying that they love this pick and John Morant should be really happy about all the screen and roll opportunities he's going to have. I mean, I get that, but also when Zach Edey is going to be putting on some big screens and getting John Morant open, John Morant's best attribute is not an outside shooter, so he's going to have to only go to the rim all the time.
Yeah.
The only thing that John Morant is going to be doing. So, yes, he's going to get a lot of easy layups because of it, but at the same time, they're going to eventually clog the lane. I mean, if teams are clogging the lane for Giannis and willing to take, 3 guys to make a charge on him, they're going to do it for John Morant eventually too. So, to me, I mean, I get the Zach Edey pick, but again, could he have been there at 12? Maybe Oklahoma City would be willing to trade up. Maybe you could see Utah even a spot to swap. I just don't. That one's a little bit of a head scratcher, even though a lot of the media people loved the pick for Memphis. I'm a little bit weary because Donovan Clingan is a different big guy when he's running the floor more fluidly than I think a Zach Edey does.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it in when Edey was in college. If he got the ball, anywhere around the basket, he was dominant. I mean, a guy that size, that type of strength, you give him the ball. If he get deeper than the block, or 5 to 8 feet away from the basket, that's where you want him at. and he's got some skill. He's a little bit slow footed, but you don't expect a guy his size to be able to run the court like that anyway. But I mean, if you got him, Steven Adams come back, it might be a different type of game if you got both of those guys on the court at the same time.
But
they're both.
The thing about it too is that John Morant's one of the fastest players in the NBA.
Yeah.
So tell me, how the heck does that work in the open floor?
Well, he's never going to make it down there.
Is he going to run it from 3-point line to 3-point line at that point? I mean, that's where another thing. Like, if you're telling me that Zach Edey is going to come off the bench, play 20 minutes a night, and dominate second units, terrific, great. Why does he need to be the number 9 pick? I mean, can you get him a little bit later? Like, could you slide like 2 or 3 spots and still get him? You probably could have. I wouldn't see Utah picking him at number 10.
No.
They have Walker Kessler already.
Yeah.
And Walker Kessler is like a Donovan Clingan, like that type of a defender, and he can run the floor so well. So I don't know. It's just in the Bulls, are they going to pick a Zach Edey at number 11? I mean, obviously we saw who they picked, and he's a dude that turns over the ball quite a bit.
Yeah.
As a ball handler, trying to be a small forward or a power forward, I'm going to try it. Boutazelis? I'm going to try that for the Bulls pick. But but I guess the point is that I'm not as big of a
folks,
fan
it's Marshall Crenshaw,
of the Edey pick
and I
compared to the Clingan pick at number 7 for Portland, where we have a better idea of how Donovan Clingan can fit in the NBA, to me, compared to a Zach Edey. Luka Garza was a terrific college player, put up huge stats, but he's like a 12th man on the Minnesota bench.
Yeah.
He plays garbage time. So I thought of Zach Edey, yes, he's a better version of it defensively, but, Garza can hit from the outside. I mean, he actually has a pretty good offensive arsenal, but it's good to be the 12th man on the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh,
so
yeah.
To me, I think that's a puzzling pick as well. Obviously, Ron Holland is the number 1 puzzling pick, but Zach Edey is number 2.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, I think Edey has a better chance of, having some type of success, depending on everything. Depends on how the Grizzlies are going to play on the offensive end. If they're going to slow the game down a little bit and play more of a, half court style where they feature Edey, because if he could come in and be some type of impact, around the lane or whatnot, that's going to get guys open shots. But, you don't have a whole lot of guys that can make open shots.
In today's NBA, can you put Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr. together in your starting 5? I think that answer is no.
Yeah, Jackson is a really a 5. You can, if you got Edey in, you can sneak and put him at the 4. But Jackson is more of a inside guy that does have the ability to shoot, but I don't know how consistent. Because if you got Edey in, you don't want somebody else in that's going to clutter the lane and keep Edey from being able to get favorable matchups and double teams and stuff like that. So they're definitely going to have to work some magic with the rotations and exactly how they are going to use them.
We're talking about this also because the Grizzlies are ready to be a contender. Obviously, their season last year was a train wreck, but they're ready to be a contender immediately.
Yeah.
They're not rebuilding with a John Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. here. So they're gonna have to make this work, or they're gonna have to take him off, put him on the bench and play bench minutes. And a lot of this criticism is more about if he was a starter. If we're talking Zach Edey as a bench guy, then just feed it to him all the time, let him foul out bench players, and he can dominate. I mean, the guy could put up 10 points in 2 minutes. He can put you on an 8-0 run immediately because he's so dominant around the basket. But does that translate well with the starters? And with how Ja Morant is one of the fastest players with the ball in the league. And I think the answer is it doesn't work.
No, it usually doesn't. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they make this happen. I would have probably took the pick and invested it in some more shooters. You do get Adams back, so if Adams is healthy, he's the guy. He's the guy you want. In the game, and you just have Edey sitting on the bench, waiting for Adams to get into foul trouble, I guess. I mean, because you can't have those two on the court together because Adams, again, he doesn't shoot the ball. Everything he does is around the basket. So, unless they're going to change their offense and be more of a half-court team that utilize the bigs, the Edey pick, if they're not going to do that, the Edey pick is very questionable.
We'll go down to number 12, obviously with Nikola Topic going to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then we will get to, obviously, the dude that you're chomping at the bit ready to talk about, of course, is Dalton Knecht here going to the Lakers. But I want to say this about Nikola Topic. If he didn't partially tear his ACL late May, early June, right before the draft, we're talking about Nikola Topic could have been the number 5 overall pick here. He's 18 years old. He's the best passer in the draft, literally the best passer in the draft. He's terrific on screen and roll. He will have time to be able to be better as a shooter. He has that frame, that 6'6", 6'7" frame that the Thunder look for with guys that are they elite with when they the ball in their hands, what are they doing with it? And Nikola Topic is elite of what he does with that. Just think of a better Josh Giddey is what I would say of how Nikola Topic's skill set here is, and to get him at number 12 just because of that partial injury where you already have a good roster and you can't have enough good, solid wings in this league today. The Thunder, I think, did great with their pick of Nikola Topic. They gave the Knicks 5 second-round picks to draft Dylan Jones at number 26. Probably a guy that will play garbage time at least to start, but he's also another guy, 6'5", 6'6", kind of an intense defender, can do a lot, led the Big Sky in scoring at Weber State. I think they did a great job with that pick as well with Dylan Jones. But this keeps adding to what the Thunder keep doing. They have a certain player they like. In today's NBA, you can't have enough guys who are 6'6" to 6'8" who can defend multiple positions and are good with the basketball in their hands. And we have seen time and time again over the years that the Thunder are ahead in this league drafting guys, and they got the number 1 seed with a team that was the youngest team in the league to make the playoffs. So hats off to the Thunder. I mean, trading Josh Giddey, that obviously wasn't a fit. He wasn't good defensively. Yes, he had some good things offensively, and he got hot in the New Orleans series, but he was literally unplayable in the Dallas series. They traded him for a guy in Alex Caruso, which Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you put William and Alex Caruso side by side, they look a little similar, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do look kind of similar.
William might have his chance to suit up in Oklahoma City gear and play in the warm-ups before security realizes he's not Alex Caruso. So maybe we can see William when the Thunder come to Indiana or something. You never know.
Hey, you never.
You never know.
No, you
But
didn't. You right. We can sneak them in
but
there.
it's like you trade Josh Giddey, that obviously was a good playmaker, but they obviously saw that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams are their number one and number two ball handlers. But look, I mean, SGA is tall for a point guard, and Jalen Williams is a small forward. So you see that, and they're not just these small ball dominant guards. These are guys that can play multiple positions. And for them to trade Josh Giddey for an elite defender in Alex Caruso, and then to draft two wing dudes that can do a lot with the ball. They can both, Dylan Jones can play defense, where Nikola Topic is your really good ball handler, excellent passer type player. So, hats off to the Thunder again. They're just getting things right. And obviously with the New York trade, New York re-signing OG Anunoby to that massive deal, and they can't afford Isaiah Hartenstein. So everyone is looking at the Thunder saying, hey, why don't you can go sign Isaiah Hartenstein. You have cap space where a lot of teams don't. You and Orlando are the only contenders that really have cap space. So it will be interesting to see. But if Oklahoma City is looking, at the fringes of the trade market, there's a guy named Day'Ron Sharpe in Brooklyn that I think can complement Chet Holmgren pretty well. Really good rebounder, good shot blocker, doesn't need the ball, kind of a rim runner dude, good athlete. You can get him for maybe a bad contract and a bunch of second round picks. You don't even probably need to give up a first. You could even dangle Gordon Hayward and say, we might take Ben Simmons on here just to take him on, and then maybe negotiate a buyout and send his ass packing. So, the Thunder still, they don't have to panic. They don't have to give Hartenstein all this money, $20 million a year if they don't want to. They could go other options. And I think Day'Ron Sharpe would be a great option for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, man. Definitely think that they're heading in the right direction. And I like it. Obviously, as far as OKC, we've been talking about them for 3 years now.
Yeah, at least.
And how they were, rebuilding the team. And this year, you actually picked them to win, 50 games. I didn't doubt you because I saw, the talent level that they had. And they were getting Chet Holmgren, who missed all of his rookie season with with that injury. And to be fair, I was one of those, I don't know how he's going to do it because he's a little bit small. It's not the same league, So I'm not going to, unless you're really tiny, and I'm not going to judge a guy on his size anymore because they don't play that. They don't play that brand of basketball. So you don't need to be, you need to be strong, but the bulky strong days of the 6'10", 6'11", 7-footers, like Joel Embiid, he's an anomaly. There's not anybody else in the league like Embiid, and with the skill the skill set Embiid possessed, things he could do with the ball in his hands, the shooting. I mean, not even Big Cat. Big Cat is good, but he ain't Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is on another whole. He's by himself when it comes to current big men, and if the guy stays healthy, he's gonna go down as one of the greats in the game because there's no answer. There's no answer for that dude. And he has gotten this good since coming into the league. He didn't have all this when he came out of college. He had the athleticism, all of that stuff, but the skill, he's built a lot of that after he got into the league. So, well, back to my point. Chet Holmgren played a lot better than I thought, and he was really good for the Thunder this past season. Really good.
Most of the time we look at the Lakers and we laugh about them, right? Like we don't take them seriously. They haven't been good for a while. Their team is a mess. The head coaching thing with JJ Redick is an absolute train wreck. And I think it's waiting to happen. It's like the writing's on the wall immediately. I don't really give JJ Redick a high chance of succeeding, but yet they kind of bring you in, and they get lucky getting Dalton Knecht.
Yeah,
number 17.
Surprised he was still there that late. Surprised.
They got lucky because outside of LeBron getting hot, D'Angelo Russell getting hot, or Taurean Prince getting hot from three, occasionally Austin Reeves, but I don't think that's Austin Reeves' game. We already know what his game is, and we both really like it.
Yeah.
But they didn't have an elite shooter. And now all of a sudden they got an elite shooter in Dalton Knecht.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to open up wonders for them in a way. I mean, who better than JJ Redick to get a guy like Dalton Knecht open? Like, he's going to make it work. And I really like the pick for the Lakers, as much as I'm obviously not a Lakers fan in general, but they did a great job here.
Yeah.
They didn't have to trade up for him. It just happened. And yeah, his age was a factor of why he slid, but
that's a plus though. That's the thing. Like, I know he's a little bit older, but being a little bit older also means you're a lot more mature, as a basketball player than some of the younger players that are getting drafted. So I don't,
Well, it also makes sense because when we're looking at Knecht was supposed to be like the 9th overall pick projected for a while before the draft started.
Yeah.
You're looking at Memphis at number 9, obviously wanted a big. Number 10, Utah's not ready to contend, so they're not going to draft a 23-year-old. You're looking at Chicago at 11. They're an absolute train wreck. Obviously, Oklahoma City has Isaiah Joe, and he's their knockdown shooter because he is really, really good as an outside shooter. And him and Knecht are around the same height. So Oklahoma City probably didn't need him. And so then you're looking at Sacramento. They are going to give Malik Monk that $72 million contract over 4 years. And then you're looking at Washington at number 14 because of that Denny Avdia trade. And obviously Washington's an absolute train wreck themselves. So I also think it's because just a lot of those teams besides Oklahoma City are going to be towards the bottom of their conferences, and they didn't need a Dalton Knecht right away.
Yeah. Yeah. And, with how this guy plays and what the Lakers want to do, he'll fit right in. Now, you still have, I mean, he's, small forward. I mean, 6'6". You can put him at the 2 if he, has that ability. Obviously, he can do it. But you have some other guys that you will run at the 2. But if you want to get a little bigger, you want to go to a little bigger of a lineup, you could throw him at the 2. You can put, you can still have, Brun at the 3. You can have Reeves at the 1. Then you got AD and Hachimura. If you want to, go there, you got a nice size lineup, and you got a guy that can knock down the shot, whether it's a hand in his face or not. I was surprised when I seen this pick, because he actually fits in with how the Lakers want to play. They're a bigger team than a lot of teams, and that's their MO.
But also he has that Reggie Miller, Rip Hamilton run without the ball, and he can shoot off balance like a Steph Curry obviously can. We're not saying anything of comparing here, but he has that ability to shoot off balance, which you're going to need to do when you're coming off screens, you're coming off pin downs, and you're going to need to do that. And if you can close games occasionally with a Austin Reeves, a Connect, a LeBron AD, and a Hachimura, or a Taurean Prince, if you need more shooting out there, actually that's pretty good. That's not bad. You have 4 legitimate guys who can shoot the 3 in crunch time.
Yeah.
Reeves, LeBron, Connect, and Taurean Prince. So I think it's going to work. And obviously with them playing, drafting Bronny James, I think he's going to give good energy off the bench for the Lakers. He's going to play limited minutes. I doubt he's going to play really crunch time, quote unquote crunch time minutes. I do see him being a dog defensively. If he were to get a better outside shot, I believe that Bronny James can be a starter in the NBA. Is he a ball handler? No, but can he be an undersized shooting guard? It's debatable because he has that defensibility already. He's obviously undersized. He doesn't have long arms, but I think with his defensive ability can get him minutes regardless if he was on the Lakers or not. It's just a matter of can he be a threat from the outside? Because obviously at his frame and being 6'2", the answer is no, not on the inside.
Yeah, and you're right. And Bronny is obviously athletic enough to play in the league. Skill wise, needs a little bit of work, but the things he can control, things he can do well, will help if he could do them at a level to be good enough. He's got the quickness, he has the speed. It's just a matter of how his game translates. Because obviously in today's game, you want guys that could do play on both ends and knock down shots and go on the other end, play really good defense. My only thing is, with the Lakers picking Bronny, how much of a distraction will this be to the rest of the team? Because they're going to get 1,000 questions a day, and a lot of them ain't going to be about them as players for the Lakers. It's going to be about LeBron James and Bronny. Those type of questions. Now, I'll go on record and say this because I was watching the game when it happened. There's some players on that team that probably is already tired of the LeBron James act. And not one of them is the next, probably the most dominant, best player on the team, and that's AD. When that man scored those 40,000 points, they stopped the game, did a whole little, tribute and all of that stuff. And AD went and sat down at the end of the bench, didn't crack a smile, didn't clap his hands, and didn't do nothing. So, how's it going to affect him? How is Bronny going to factor in the rotation? Because there are guys on that team that will probably play more than he will. And there's a lot of people that think he won't pan out. And after LeBron, go ahead.
I think the question is, can he play 20 minutes a night? And that is going to be the big question his rookie season. And I think the answer is, if his defensive ability is there, he can. But if he's just not ready, he's just not ready. And they're gonna see that pretty quickly. Not in summer league, maybe in preseason and more in your day to day, your scrimmage workouts, of course. But to me, can he play 20 minutes a night? And I think that's going to be the big goal for him.
Yeah,
night in and night out.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's a lot of chatter and talk about this whole pick. I have my, thoughts on this whole thing, and we've been talking about this for a while. We knew this was happening, just like we knew the Redick, rumors with Redick getting a head coaching job at the Lakers didn't catch us by surprise. We was talking about this stuff, a month and a half, 2 months ago. I don't even know, if Dan Hurley was a serious candidate, but I don't know how serious or how much the Lakers even thought that they would, have a chance to get him. But we knew Redick was going to be the coach of the Lakers. Then the Dan Hurley, talk caught us off guard because nobody was talking about that. We didn't know. Nobody knew. But the Redick deal we knew. And there was a lot of people in the, NBA front offices that was saying if the Lakers don't take Bronny, he's probably not going to get drafted. Now, watching ESPN and listening to them say the reasons why, giving their reasons about, Bronny going to the Lakers and, teams that was passing up Bronny because they didn't want to get in the way of, LeBron James' wishes to play with his son. Man, listen, if that's the case, and, because there was only two teams that worked them out, and that was the Lakers and Phoenix. Other than that, nobody worked them out. And there was a lot of GMs and front office people that were saying he's not even draftable. He won't be drafted. So it's a great thing for the league, and it's great for the storylines. And I guess if you want to, be the first to do something in the league, if that's, going to help your legacy or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, can you play basketball in this league at a high level? And he's 6'2", so he's not coming in to be a shooting guard or a scorer because he hasn't shown that ability to be able to do that. He's going to be playing the point. He's going to have to facilitate offense. He's going to have to, get other guys involved. And can he do that? Because, what I've seen at USC, he wasn't even starting. So it's not a whole lot of tape or anything showing what the potential possibly that everybody is looking at. They're looking at LeBron James because potential-wise, he hadn't shown enough, and on the college stage for me to say, okay, he's gonna do this, he's gonna do that. So I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, it's a good story, but he's got to be able to play ball in this league. And there's a few other former NBA players that's got sons in the league, and some of them are pretty good players. Scottie Pippen's son, I think he was on the Lakers. I don't know if he still is. You got Gary Payton Jr., who's really a big player for the for Golden State. And you have, who am I miss? Tim Hardaway Jr., who's shown that he could play in this league.
Who just got traded today to the wasteland that is the Detroit Pistons.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, so and he got traded to Detroit. But there's some other guys, obviously, their fathers was way far gone and retired, by the time they got to the league. But, there are former players in this league that's got kids that are, pretty good players. So if Bronny James...
In next year's draft, obviously the big prize is Cooper Flagg, but we're talking Cameron Boozer, Carlos Boozer's son. He's really good. He's probably gonna be a top 5 pick just to even start the conversation this coming season. And also what's interesting about Bronny here, LeBron James's middle son, in 2 years he would be eligible to play he would be in the 2026 draft, and I actually think that he is a much more talented player overall than a Bronny James is. And so to me, that's going to be an interesting name to see.
Now,
not Dwayne Wade's kid, Zaire Wade. I'm not as high on him, but obviously Cameron Boozer coming into the draft next year. Him and Cooper Flagg, I think, are the big prizes. And then you're looking at LeBron James's middle son. Actually is a pretty talented kid.
Yeah, and unlike Bronny, I think everybody will be in agreement when Bryce declares for the draft. He's going to be one of the top prospects in that draft, and it won't be any questions about how good he is, if he's using his dad as leverage to get into the league. There won't be no questions about that, because right now he's better than Bronny. Right now. So that's going to be one that I think a lot of people are going to be paying attention to. Now, could he orchestrate Bryce getting in the Laker uniform? It's not going to happen, because he's going to be too good.
And especially the Lakers don't have any other picks.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be probably a top 10 pick. He's probably going to be a top 10 pick. I can
definitely see that. I think he has size. I think he has really good athletic ability. He's explosive to the basket for his age. Completely agree with you that we're looking at somebody who could be a top 10 to top 5 pick in the 2026 draft eventually.
Yeah, because he's already about 6'6", 6'5"?
Yeah, and he's pretty explosive.
Yeah,
for sure. So I would say, they have a problem. The Lakers would have a problem if they really wanted him. They're going to have to
make some moves.
I don't know. Yeah, make some moves, because really all they have to offer out is D'Angelo Russell's expiring contract, especially if he opts in during free agency, which I'm sure he will. But I don't have a lot of faith. I mean, the Lakers have already given up a lot of that draft capital. So
yeah,
they're pretty strapped there, just like their Eastern Conference similar attention team with our Villanova Knicks team Ramrod. They made a huge move right before the draft, but I've been saying it for a while, Derek. The Villanova Knicks, and now they got the Voltron of the four of them, all four teammates: Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, and now Mikal Bridges. So it's pretty wild to see that. Obviously, you're not going to have any chemistry issues.
No.
You're not going to have continuity issues on this roster. But, they still have a guy named Julius Randle out there that, he's in trade rumors, but I don't think the Knicks are really – they're going to have to give up more of the picks that they have stockpiled. Where they gave up most of them in the Mikal Bridges trade, but they still have some others they could attach to Julius Randle to get off that contract. But to be fair, if they want to be taken as seriously as, of course, they do, they're still going to need them.
Yeah.
So I feel that those trade rumors are kind of dead. But how ramrod of Tom Thibodeau is it going to be that Mikal Bridges hasn't missed a game since high school, and
he's going to wear him out.
It's a foregone conclusion, and Derek, we've talked about this pretty at length, of course, but I think Knicks fans are absolutely delusional. And they're going to see that they think they're going to win the title. I mean, Zach Lowe said that he thinks he might even pick the Knicks to win the title, but I wouldn't trust them as far as I can throw them.
No.
Yeah, they're going to have a good regular season record. They have depth. They have versatility on both ends of the floor. They have an offensive guy in Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, but they have defensive dudes. DiVincenzo, Hart, Bridges, and Anunoby. I mean, they have Mitchell Robinson. They have defensive dudes, and I think Miles McBride will still get pretty decent minutes for them. But to be honest with you, I mean, we saw Randall was out for the whole playoffs. Jalen Brunson was nicked up multiple times during the season. He missed games in the playoffs against Indiana, of course. Obviously, Mitchell Robinson missed the majority of the regular season. I don't trust it. I mean, look, they're going to be probably the second best team in the East. I mean, them and Boston. Obviously, Milwaukee and Philly will have to make moves, or Miami would have to make moves in order to be back in that discussion. But I mean, it's New York and it's Boston. I mean, New York's roster is really stacked. They're good, and they're going to be awesome this year, to be honest. But I don't trust their coach, and that is one of the biggest ways of how we can see how far they can be taken. And we saw that pretty evidently this year that Indiana beat them. I mean, Indiana is not bad. They're a good team. But they shouldn't have beat the Knicks healthy. And obviously they weren't healthy.
Yeah.
So I would pump the brakes on the Knicks getting to the finals, or the Knicks, of course, winning the finals next year. They have the roster on paper to do it, but they have the wrong coach. And I think we're going to see the ramifications of that.
Well, I mean, Ramrod history goes back. He was in Chicago. No doubt. I mean, he has some good abilities to coach a team and get the very best out of some guys that are maybe not as good as they're performing for him. But
the best example is Taj Gibson.
Yeah, Taj Gibson. His days when he was in Chicago. Was it Chicago? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Chicago with that group. He hadn't been that player since he left Chicago. I mean, obviously he's a lot older now than he was then, but you had guys like Joakim Noah, um, you know, just dudes that play hard and scrappy and get out there on the defensive end. That's what he loves. That's the type of game he wants, and he makes sure he drafts those type of guys. He doesn't care, about offense, so to speak. I mean, you have to score to win, but he rather have guys that lock in on the defensive end, hustle, get after it, and then everything else will take care of itself. But that strategy once you get into the playoffs, that is the negative, because you get in situations where you struggle, scoring points when you have to go, to your bench, and he doesn't really have a deep rotation like that normally, and that's
Well,
what that,
obviously, with this squad, he will.
yeah,
But with DiVincenzo and Hart coming off the bench, but we're talking that it could be game 65, and they might already have 45 wins at that point, and they're up 20 in the fourth in Detroit, and he's still gonna have his dudes out there. Like it's that's the most maddening thing about him that really nobody talks about. And even after this Bridges trade, nobody still talks about how he can absolutely be the number one reason why this won't work, even though their roster is so good. And they gave up 4 unprotected first round picks. One of the Milwaukee picks that they acquired, obviously a couple seconds, and of course Bojan Bogdanovic. So this puts Brooklyn, when obviously they don't do the deal without that Houston trade where they're saying, hey, we really need our 2025 pick back and we want our 2026 pick back. We'll give you a bunch of the Phoenix stuff. And so they can dangle those Phoenix picks back to Phoenix, in kind of a weird, kind of strange carousel of you trade all your picks away to get a big player. Obviously, Kevin Durant was that example. And now, the 2 teams that you've dealt with before,
yeah,
one of them now is owning, is dangling your picks around, saying we've got them. If you're ready to blow your roster up, we'll take your player. So it's kind of a funny concept of how that is. But with Brooklyn, as I talked about early in the segment, when you tank and you're tanking and you're going in that direction, and we're not talking the Detroit direction, and we're not talking about the Atlanta direction. We're talking about like an OKC direction. Like this was obviously not the Paul George. I mean, it's a Paul George type of trade, but it's not. They obviously didn't get a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander back in return. But the thing about it is they now have that vision of who they know they're going to be. If you see Derek, if you're in Vegas staggering out at 3 a.m. and it's like September, and you're like, hey, I want to see what the over-under is for the Nets win total, and you see it's like 18, bet the under. I promise you, bet the under, because they're going to be like process Sixers bad. Like that's how bad they're going to be. They're gonna find a trade for Cam Johnson during this free agency period. Yeah, they signed Nick Claxton because you know what? Every team has to match the salary floor. And if they don't get to the salary floor, then all those players get an extra bonus up to what the salary floor is. So you might as well give Nick Claxton $25 million a year. Oh well, no big deal. So if you could turn Cam Johnson into 2 first-round picks and an expiring contract, you call up Woj and you make it happen. You get a couple second round picks and a random bad player for Dennis Schroeder. You make it happen. These are the things you're going to be doing of when you start the full on tank rebuild mode. And Nick Claxton's a good player, and he'll put up good stats for him. Cam Thomas is just an absolute shot chucker. And, anybody as head coach can be like, yeah, Cam Thomas, shoot 30 times. We don't care. We're going to lose by 30 anyway, so what does it matter?
Yeah.
So these are the type of things that they're going to be doing. They're going to be purposely tanking because, Cooper Flagg is that hype Zion type of name that teams are already going to be going after. And, them, Washington, Detroit, you're looking at, who else? Utah. Portland got a little bit better in the Avdija trade, so I think Portland is their roster is too weird and awkward right now for them to be completely tanking. But, we're looking at Brooklyn and Washington with a big, big lens mirror saying these two teams are going to be as bad as you can possibly get. To be honest, Derek, Victor Wembanyama is so good that the Spurs might even win 38-40 games because he's just that good. But when we're talking Washington and Brooklyn, it's going to be like some of the worst basketball you could possibly imagine. It's kind of like Kyle Kuzma can go chuck up a bunch of shots, and so can Jordan Poole. And Washington has maybe one real guy they're going to develop, and that's Bilal Coulibaly from last year's lottery pick for them, where my opinion about Alex Sarr. I just don't like the kid. I'm not a big fan. And it's a very Washington pick to do. But when it comes to what Brooklyn is going to do, they have a tunnel vision of who they are, who they're going to be. And after a very tumultuous 10 to 12-year run since the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett trade, they just need to chill out. They just need to know that they're going to suck at least for 2 years. If they get a Cooper Flagg, play his rookie year out, and then start going on the upward climb with all those picks they got from New York. They still have some Phoenix stuff left, and they got their own picks back. So honestly, Brooklyn could just go hide in a cave for a couple of years, and that's fine. That's what they should be doing.
Yeah, that's what they should be doing, man. So everything will work out as long as they remain on that track, man. Definitely.
Yeah, sell your decent veterans off and just be as bad as humanly possible with all the cap space in the world that you're probably not going to use very much.
Yeah, I mean you need to rebuild. You need to rebuild anyway, and that ain't the way to rebuild. Ain't spend a lot of money on some marginalized players just to say, hey, we're trying to win. Hey, do it the way OKC did it. Do it the way, who else did? Orlando did, man. Let your fans know, hey, we're going to go through some little rough waters here while we rebuild this team and put a winner on the court for years to come. Not just, hey, I want to win 1 year. You want to be competitive for a decade. That's how you do it.
And Derek, how excited are you about Paolo Banchero?
Listen, first of all, when they drafted him, I didn't know he was going to be this good. I knew he had the body. I knew he had the NBA body. And due to the fact, because I don't have cable, so I don't get to watch a whole lot of Magic games, only when they're on like the main channels, ESPN, or they're playing on TNT or NBA TV. I don't have, the Bally Sports You know, because Bally Sports is stupid. But when I watch this man play, every game I've seen, he's been the best player on the court. And it was a great thing for them to make the playoffs. They might have not won that series, but it was a great thing for them to make the playoffs and get a chance to show the league what type of group they have, and the potential for them is crazy. They can be a very scary team in about 2 years. You probably don't want to play the Magic in 2 years.
But look at this. But look at this, Derek. They made it to Game 7 versus Cleveland, and they had a 15-point lead in the first half.
Yeah.
So like, if it wasn't for Franz Wagner just going completely ice cold,
yeah, he disappeared
in Game 7.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about the Magic would have been playing Boston, and we would have been talking about, hey, it's actually not a terrible matchup because Franz Wagner on Jaylen Brown, Paulo Banchero on Jason Tatum. Like, it's not awful.
No.
It's not as bad as, obviously, Boston destroying Cleveland in 5 games. So, to me, like, we could have been seeing the Magic be ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And then now, all of a sudden, these rumors about, the Magic wanting to offer 2 years to Klay Thompson or 2 years to KCP. I don't know if I'd give him 20 to 25 million a year.
Who, Klay?
But I wouldn't. Heck no.
Hold
no
on.
way I'd give Klay
you said
million a year.
Oh, I thought you said 25 mil for 2 years. You 25 mil a year? No.
No, I mean the rumors out there is Klay for 2 years, 50 million to the Magic, and I'm like,
no,
there's no way, there's no way you do that.
He's not gonna push you over. Klay Thompson isn't that guy like that anymore. He's not gonna push you over the top. Does
the Magic need a consistent outside shooter in the starting 5? Yes, they absolutely do because Gary Harris is not that guy.
Nope.
Because you have Jalen, Fultz is not that guy.
Nope.
And Jalen Suggs should be your starting point guard, eventually, and it shouldn't be Fultz down the road. I mean, Fultz now is fine, but not in 2 years when you're ready to actually blow the league up.
Yeah.
And so, to me, you do have to find that outside shooter, but not at 25 mil.
Yeah, not at 25 mil. You got some young guys that's getting ready. You're gonna need that money to keep them. I mean, obviously,
if I'm the Magic, I would be banging. I would be calling 40 times. I would be banging the door of the agent of Paul George, and I would just give him that 4 year, give him as much as you can, and just say, if we can get Paul George with Franz and Banchero with Jalen Suggs,
it's a wrap.
Wendell Carter,
it's a wrap.
You're talking about that you could go to war with the Knicks.
Yeah,
you could go to war with the Knicks with that roster. Markelle Fultz coming off the bench. I mean, you saw Jalen Suggs. He's a much better version of a Dante DiVincenzo, of an aggressive, on-the-ball defender, of how good Jalen Suggs truly is. And so I would be banging the phone. I'd be flying the jet plane right to L.A. I'd be like, get on here. You have the highest income tax in the nation, and California, you have no income tax with us, baby. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's come to Orlando, Florida, and we're going to be really good. Because if you got a Paul George, you're a 52-win team.
Yeah.
With that roster.
Yeah.
Immediately. Like, no questions asked. Because Paul George right now is a really good number 2.
Yeah.
You don't want Paul George as your number 1 option because the Magic have him, and that's Paulo Banchero. So my point for all the Magic stuff when I started this by asking you about Paulo is the Nets could just chill out. Let the Nets just sit on the sidelines. They can go into hibernation and just and just chill out and watch, and they'll see they do it right. They're going to become the Magic in 4 years. So, but we're obviously we pivoted a little bit, and
Yeah.
I wanted to tie it together because everyone, the media keeps saying Paul George at Golden State. It's like, but Golden State's not good enough to be beating Oklahoma City, Denver, or Minnesota.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
or Dallas for that. If you put Curry and Paul George and Draymond together, like
No.
I don't see it.
Listen,
Because you're gonna have to attach a Jonathan Kuminga in order to get Chris Paul off your roster
Yep.
if you guarantee his $30 million. So, then you would be trading away your best young player you have. Otherwise, it's Moses Moody and Trace Jackson Davis. So, to me, if I were Paul George, I wouldn't want to go to Golden State. I would take that freaking jet plane one way over to Orlando, Florida. That's what I would do. Do what Rashard Lewis did. And look what happened.
Yeah.
The Magic went to the finals. And Rashard Lewis was still good with Dwight Howard.
Yep.
So
Yep.
So if I were Paul George, that would be my number one destination. Is he's still good enough to be a number 2 option, and that's exactly what they need because obviously Franz Wagner in a Game 7 had a hard time to put them over the hump that day. If you put Paul George in that game, they're winning that game.
Yeah.
And so to me, Derek, I hope for you that you get to sit there and watch a really good Magic team if that were to happen.
Oh man, if that happened, I'll be ecstatic, and I think they'll become, if not, I mean, obviously Boston is the champion, so you know you're not gonna be the favorites, but they pull off Paul George. They're going to be in that top. I mean, they finished with the 4th best record in the East this year. So you add Paul George to that roster, top 2? Top 2.
Well, actually, they were the 6th seed.
Oh, they were the 6th seed.
They didn't have home court advantage against Cleveland, but I mean, them and the Knicks are duking it out as the
yeah. That's why
the
Knicks was 4th seed. Yeah.
And if ESPN is telling me it's the Sixers, or if ESPN is telling me it's the Bucks, and they can't make moves, I'm shutting off the TV. Like it's the Magic or the Knicks at that point. And the reason why you can afford Paul George, Derek, is take a wild guess who is your most expensive player on your roster this coming season.
This coming season, I want to say probably. Let me think. Fultz.
You're close. It's Jonathan
Isaac. Oh, I forgot about him. Yeah.
So if he's your highest paid player on the team, and Banchero's extension, obviously he's not there yet, and of course Franz is not there yet either. You can swing for the fences and grab a Paul George here. Give him that 4 years, 120, whatever it's got to be. Do it.
See,
and
I'm okay with that. 4 years, 120 for George. What's that?
Like $30 million a year.
$30 million a year. Yeah, I'm okay with that. But if they talking about 2 years, 50 for Clay, no.
That would put you at about the same level where you're at now.
Yeah.
It's just you just upgraded from Gary Harris. I mean, big deal, right? So that's not really what you're looking for. But I know these numbers of Emmanuel Quickley's extension today of $175 million, and then of course the Scotty Barnes at the 250 plus, over 250 for his extension. You're looking at the OG Anunoby extension as well too, because they made an All NBA or they made an All-Star game. I mean, there is reasons why, that they went to those numbers, but the Magic don't have those guys yet. Obviously, if Banchero makes an all-star team, then you're going to see Orlando have to break the bank on him, of course, in his after rookie extension. But for now, you're looking at you can afford to take a big swing at a Paul George the first day of free agency, which you're going to have to do that if you're smart to go target him, because he can accelerate a year ahead. Like, he could put you in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, he's that good for you. So, Derek, I'll be waiting, and I hope that he comes to you, because that would be really cool to see it.
Yeah,
That'd be actually really cool for you to be really excited about your Magic. I know that we have gone through this process since Isaac has been drafted.
yeah,
And how I know that I've liked Isaac since he came into the league, but we've gone from there all the way to where we're at now, and this is a full circle thing before I go, and this was kind of the last topic I wanted to talk about, was when you do your rebuild right, you don't take on huge contracts, like you don't sign really long, extensive contracts, and you keep your own players, you keep your picks, you grab some other picks and deals, and you have all this cap space. All of a sudden, you had to have one player pop more than what their value was when they got drafted, and that was Franz Wagner, because I think we can all agree that Jalen Suggs has been the player that we knew he was going to be. This bulldog defender, okay shooter, but he's really there to hound the other point guard. Where Franz Wagner took a pretty big leap, and he's a good player. So all you had to do was hit on one specific pick, and they did. And now you're in the driver's seat with some playoff experience in a Game 7 to now all of a sudden you can become a dominant force in the East. That's how you rebuild your roster.
yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you all the way. You won't get no debate from me on that. I think we've both been saying for years about, how to properly, rebuild your roster and do it the right way so you can have long-term sustainability, winning games and putting yourself in that conversation every year of favorites to, go to the finals, get to the Eastern Conference Finals, year in and year out, being that team that people believe with, can go all the way. So,
and then all of a sudden you become that really good team, and then now veterans are going to want to come to you, and now you're going to have pretty solid 1 through 8 instead of like a shaky 1 through 7. So I mean, it comes with that as well too. When you get really good and you're a contender every year, now all of a sudden you're going to have veterans wanting to play for you. Like, you can, after like a Bradley Beal deal is over, you could get him in a cheaper deal because he wants to play for a winner. And those are the type of things that can happen down the road.
mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So exciting. I mean, in the pick the Magic made, De Silva, I think he's going to be a big plus for them. Very similar to the type of guys they already have. Long, lanky guys that could do multiple things, on the court, play multiple positions, just versatile players. And this guy, he makes 3-point, he shoots the three at about 40%. Magic currently don't even have a 3-point shooter at that. So if he could come in and make threes at 40%, with his size, 6'8", 217, that's a good size. He'll put on some more weight, and he'll be he's an all around player. So he doesn't do one thing elite. He just do a lot of things well, and that's what you want. And you just want a player that overall can do it all. So I thought that was a really good, draft pick and he's already 23 years old. So he's a more mature, player.
And when you're good, like the Magic are now, you could draft a guy. You could take a shot on a guy like that because you already have your project players be good enough. So why not take a guy that could be your eighth best guy or your ninth best guy, and he can give you some quality minutes. So I don't see anything wrong with it.
No, I don't, man. I actually, you know, like the trade, and when they called his name, I was like, hey, this is it. This the guy. So I think he's gonna fit in well, and the fact that the Magic already have, guys with experience there, he don't have to be thrusted into the starting lineup right away. He could do his thing coming off of the bench, provide some energy, some depth, make some shots, stretch the floor out. Now you got, Ben Kiro, who is, in the post by himself, or he can step out, hit the three. I'm just really impressed with, Ben Kiro's overall game. And in that Cleveland series, he showed me and a lot of other people that, yeah, I can be dominant and can't nobody on this team stop me. Basically, they didn't have anybody on Cleveland that could stop him. He did whatever he want that whole series. It just came down to Cleveland making a few more plays than than they made.
Yeah, it obviously, Donovan Mitchell just came alive pretty well in that second half, and Orlando just couldn't make a shot for quite a while in tough stretches. So, the rumors of Donovan Mitchell leaving Cleveland, I don't think those are real. Cleveland's good, but they're not great. I mean, they're pretty solid, and they're going. Where they're at is about what they're going to be. And outside of George or Brandon Ingram, there's not a lot of high-valued free agents out there that, a team like Milwaukee or Philly or Cleveland would kind of need to take them more seriously, or just as serious as you need to take them outside of course, now New York and Boston. So, once Paul George and Brandon Ingram situations get kind of settled, it's gonna be tough, I think, for those two teams to kind of figure out what they're gonna do with their off season. So, I think that today's DeJounte Murray trade is gonna give the Pelicans more, I would say, motivation to get a Brandon Ingram contract ironed out and keep him. So then all of a sudden it's going to be an arms race for Paul George at that point, due to obviously the Clippers not wanting to offer him a fourth year. So that part's going to be a huge domino effect of how we're going to look at who gets him. But it seems to me this DeJounte Murray trade today is going to make the Pelicans iron out an extension for Brandon Ingram.
Yeah. You got to bring Ingram back. If you go out there and you get Murray, he's a proven player that can do a little bit of everything. Has the leadership ability. Not that Pelicans didn't have leadership already, but that's just another guy, a veteran guy that you could depend on when you get into those tough games where you need that veteran leadership. Um,
And
he
that's
he
and
can
that's
be that guy.
exactly what he brings. He had those back-to-back game winners during the regular season. He was one of the only reasons that the Hawks even made the play-in. That's how bad the Hawks were without him.
Yeah,
So you put him with C.J. McCollum, and eventually, if you figure out the Brandon Ingram thing, and of course our boy Zion, can the Pelicans be better than a play-in team? Yeah, they absolutely can be. Uh, I just we'll see.
yeah,
We'll see if they can figure out the Brandon Ingram extension, which they should. And I think New Orleans could be good at that point. Like they could be a pretty solid. They could be a pretty solid team. Maybe not the OKC, Minnesota, Denver tier, but they could be in that next three. They could be almost as good as Dallas at that point. So I like what they did. I like what they did. I think Atlanta is a total head scratcher, but with New Orleans, they did awesome.
yeah.
Derek, I think I am all out of what I can give you. I obviously I know it's been a while since I've been on, and I obviously there's a lot to talk about with the draft, and I'll definitely come on when it comes to free agency.
Yeah.
I do have a wedding rehearsal to be at on Wednesday, so if we could see where the dust settles by, let's say, next Friday the 5th,
Yeah.
then we could do another segment here and really go deep dive on free agency. As you know,
Yep.
on Monday the 1st, I will be putting into the Rat Pack group chat as many of them as fast as I could possibly do. I know at the trade deadline I was pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
I was good during free agency before, but I will do it again as well. And shout out to my Anthony Bennett All-Star list that I know I haven't gotten it to you, but Ben Simmons, Gordon Hayward, Davis Bertans, Evan Fournier, Brandon Clark. It's just, Bertans and Hayward got traded for each other. The Knicks had to dangle Fournier to somebody. I mean, it's just apparent. The Nets, they're going to have to attach some picks to get off Ben Simmons, even if they're trying to claim that they might keep him.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, Ben Simmons. Once this contract is over,
he's done.
I mean, I know he's an expiring, and maybe somebody could be talked into him. I get it, but my God, if he doesn't even get a $5 million contract coming up after this, he would have to take that, like 1 year, $5 million deal or something. Like, it's so bad. He is at the worst it can be. He can't shoot. He can't shoot free throws. He's not the defender he used to be. He's not the explosive player that he was in Philly. Yeah, he's a good passer, but oh my God, it is so bad with him. He can't hit a three to save his life. It's really bad.
Yeah, he won't even shoot the three.
He's horrible at free throws. I mean, the guy can make layups. I guess, yeah, he can do that. But I mean, the explosiveness that he had in Philly made him a two-time All-Star, made him an All-Defensive player. And my God, the drop-off is so crazy. I mean, just the games that he played in Brooklyn, even this last season before his back injury flared up so much that he couldn't play anymore. He doesn't have that explosive first step. He doesn't have that wow factor that he did have in Philly. And it is so apparent that
he would be lucky to be in the league if he were a free agent. I mean, I don't see it. I wouldn't touch him. If it was under $5 million for a 1-year deal, if I was a good team, I'd maybe touch it. But other than that, man, like if someone gave him 2 years, even $20 million, he would just be on my list because he's a bad NBA player.
Yeah.
I don't even think he should even be in the league. It's so bad.
Well, somebody, I mean, not somebody, but I mean the Nets. This guy figured it out, man. He figured it out how to make a lot of money with very little playing time.
I mean, if I'm Detroit and I'm just hunting for extra picks, and if Brooklyn's so desperate to get off of Ben Simmons, I mean, we talked about this when the Knicks had all this cap space and they never did it, is just take the deal and get 2 first-round picks to take them.
Yeah.
Like, there's no risk in that when you're already going to be terrible. Or like Utah. Utah could be the same thing. Like, why wouldn't Utah want to do that? I mean, I would if I were Utah. Like, I would give up Robert Williams if I were Portland and a first round, to take on Ben Simmons and maybe get a pick or two. Like, I would do that if I were Portland. Like, Robert Williams is hurt. You just drafted Donovan Clingan.
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton still plays for you. So why not call up Brooklyn and say, hey, we'll give you Robert Williams, give us 2 firsts, give us 2 pretty far future firsts, protections, that's fine. We'll take Ben Simmons for his expiring contract, no problem. Like, and then I would tell Ben Simmons, don't even show up to the arena. We don't want you. Just don't even arrive in the state of Oregon. We don't even want you stepping foot here. So, I mean, that's the only reason that he would have any trade value is that you have to attach assets to him.
Yeah. They're going to have to do something because ain't nobody else going to give him anything.
Well, the Thunder are going to have to deal with that with Gordon Hayward as well, too, because they had to do that with Davis Bertans. But, they did trade up and took the Davis Bertans contract as, kind of a dumping ground. They let the Mavericks trade up, and they took Davis Bertans on in order to ship him off. And, I mean, obviously it shows how bad Davis Bertans is. No, I'm sorry. I got that wrong. The Thunder did trade up to get Kason Wallace. In order to do that, they took on Bertans' money. That makes more sense. And then they shipped Bertans at the deadline, of course, for Gordon Hayward in the Gordon Hayward trade. So these guys just trade themselves, and it's hilarious to see that because it shows that they really are the worst players in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really shows. I mean, Fournier, Bertans, and Hayward, it's like a trifecta of it. It's
I mean, Fournier is making like $18 million. I think 17 or 18 million.
Yep. He still has another year to do it, so it's pretty amazing. I mean, obviously, this is Bertans' last year. And you know what's funny about this, Derek, is even you can figure out it's probably his last year on a 4-year deal because he's been on the Anthony Bennett All-Star list.
Yeah.
3 years in a row. So only math can figure that out, right?
Yep.
So it's pretty funny how this all plays out. But yeah, your Anthony Bennett list is. I know I've had a questionable with Kawhi Leonard 1 year, but I'm pretty good with them. I have to find the worst people. So it's a lot of fun, of course, and it's cool to have a platform to talk about it. And still it's nowhere on the internet. So I absolutely am happy that it's it's still going. So.
Yeah. We when we do get a chance to discuss the list on the air, we'll get it posted on the web page for everybody to go and check it out, and we'll link the previous year's Anthony Bennett All Star articles to that one, so you guys can see the evolution of this list. Where I mean, he hadn't really been that wrong about the list, because these guys are what they are, overpaid.
Overpaid and bad.
Yep. Hey, but hey, one of your guys, he's still circling the wagons, man. I don't get it. I don't know what what is his name? Gordon, Eric Gordon.
Yeah, he is still playing in the league with Phoenix. I mean, obviously, he doesn't make a ton of money, which is that's irrelevant. But yeah, he's still playing.
Yep.
Definitely.
They must have read one of your articles and said, "Hey, man, this guy's making a good point, man. We can't be paying this guy this kind of money. He's not that type of player anymore."
I saw an article that John Wall is trying to get back into the league, and I kind of chuckled. I was like, "Yep, I definitely had him on my list one year. That's for damn sure."
Yep. Yep.
He was like number 2, I want to say, one year. I think that was the first Ben Simmons year. He was number 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a fall from grace for Ben Simmons, but it's great, and I absolutely love seeing it because it gives me material every year. So I'm totally okay with it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Derek. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem, brother.
It was great to be on. It was great to be back and give the listeners what they want. So give them that NBA content and that they can be happy with.
Yep, and we'll have this podcast here, posted on the podcast site, so you guys can go back and listen to it in its full entirety. And we should probably do more of these Friday shows, or more of these shows. They could be any day of the week outside of Wednesdays, but we'll definitely do this again.
Maybe it's the start of a trend for us.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, it could be. But yeah, brother, hey, appreciate you, man. As always, the best there is out there. Mr. Nicholas Lane, I put him up against anybody. Appreciate you coming on, man, and we'll catch you up next time, man.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Rat Pack Sports Show NBA insider Nicholas Lane, and a guy definitely does his homework. I keep telling y'all, man, do not sleep on my man. He's probably as good as anybody you'll probably see on in here. I don't care if they're in the media or whatever they're doing. He does his homework, and he rarely get it wrong, and appreciate him for coming on with me here on this Friday night, and talking some NBA draft. Next time he's on, I'm pretty sure we'll cover some of the free agencies and other stuff around the league as well. And we're not that far away, man. We got a few more weeks here, and NFL will be reporting for training camp. We're gonna talk some WNBA on Wednesday night. We're not gonna get into it tonight because I got a lot to say on that as well. So we'll get into that on Wednesday night, and We'll have William Graves on with us, get his opinion on it as well, because we've been in the Rat Pack Sports Show chat group, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about, and a whole lot of time in between now and NFL training camp to where we can get it out. So we won't cover a whole lot of NFL right now. It's kind of like dead time anyway. Nothing going on. All the mini camps and stuff is over with. Mandatory mini camps are over with, and now they're just waiting around until July when training camp start. This is usually the time when somebody gets into trouble because they got just too much downtime between the mini camp and training camp. So be on the lookout for anybody getting in trouble off the field or whatnot. And, in about 3 weeks, I think the first few teams will open up in a few weeks because they have that Hall of Fame game. And then we'll hit the ground running once the, training camp starts. Rat Pack Sports Show goes into full attack mode. So, the off season, we usually, have some downtime. A lot of things not happening. So, we usually take some time off from the show and just kind of like, get our minds right. Because once, the NFL season start, then right behind that, you got, NHL. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers for finishing the deal and not becoming a team to blow a 3-0 lead in the in any playoff. I mean, 3-0 is guaranteed you're going to win, and Edmonton made it a fight. And I was impressed by them, coming all the way back and forcing the Game 7. I didn't think that was going to happen. They did. And the Florida Panthers, came home. They sealed the deal. Lord Stanley is still resides in Florida. I know I'm a Lightning fan, but Florida Panthers is local to the state. I'm gonna root for the Panthers if my team isn't in it. So it was good to see them get it done. They play similar to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they had a great run this postseason. Last season they lost in the finals, so they came back this year. That's back-to-back finals for the Panthers. Before the Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning was in three straight? Yeah, 3 straight finals. So, yeah, the Florida team in the last 5 Stanley Cups. That's impressive for a state that don't even get any snow. So, congrats to them for, getting the job done and sealing the deal. I think the NHL draft was tonight as well. So we'll probably get into that Wednesday as well. Don't have a whole lot of time right now to break down the draft and who picked where. But first round was today. Tomorrow will be rounds 2 through 7. And I'm gonna just look to see who my Tampa Bay Lightning took. So let's see who they took. So they would be somewhere around about 20, 19, Nashville. Actually, let's go up because they lost in the first round. So maybe they don't have a first round pick. Minnesota, San Jose, New Jersey. Nope. We gave up our first round pick That's what it looks like. Huh. Strange. Let me see what's going on here. I know we brought back Ryan McDonough and yeah, we don't have a draft pick. Um Whatever. So we'll be picking tomorrow. I'm in the second round. But one more thing here before we head out, man. Uh NHL. So the Hart Trophy is supposed to go out to the best player in hockey, right? That's what it's supposed to go to. Well, uh, taking nothing away from Nathan McKinnon, he's a fantastic hockey player, but we got a guy on our team by the name of Nikita Kucherov. And obviously Kucherov got second place. He got 51st place votes. McKinnon received 137. But the two best players in the regular season, this is supposed to be a regular season award. Was in what I thought was Nathan McKinnon had 140 total points, and Kucherov had 144. So if the Hart Trophy goes to the best player, Kucherov got 144 points. He should have won it. Taking nothing away from McKinnon, but Kucherov was better. He was better. McKinnon scored 51 goals, 89 assists. Kucherov had 44 goals, 100 assists. So I'm sure McKinnon probably beat him out in the goals category, and I would probably say McKinnon probably got him in the defensive category as well. I mean, McKinnon is a fantastic player, and it's plus minus he plus 35. So while he was on the ice, his team was plus. They was 35 goals better than everybody else, where Kucherov was plus 8. And we know the Lightning's struggles on the defensive end of the ice this past season. So that's probably what was the difference, him on the defensive side. But, congratulations to him. I was hoping, Kucherov won it. He didn't get it. So with that being said, hey, maybe next year. So, that'll be it, man. We're going to get on up out of here. I mean, we're at, 2 hours here on the stream. And I got to get this thing, posted up. So we're going to get out of here for the night. But as always, man, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Those who listen on the downloads, appreciate you for downloading, checking us out on the podcast as well. My man, Nicholas Lane, always grateful to have him on the show, be a part of the Rat Pack, and enjoyed his conversation. We will do more of these Friday night topics type shows. We got some more stuff coming, as I've been saying. We're gonna, dive into the live streaming a little bit on, Facebook and see where that goes. We're gonna do some different things here coming up this year, especially during the football season. We will try to do I did it before, but I want to go back to it. We're gonna do like a pregame show where we pregame on Sundays. We get on and we discuss the matchups, fantasy football related stuff, all of that stuff as well. So, with that being said, we're done, man. We're done. So, at the end of the day, I say we're done. We're done. So we're out of here, man. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll see you Wednesday night. I'm Debo, my man Nicholas Lane, and everybody else from the Rat Pack. We will catch you guys Wednesday night. We'll see you on the other side. Enjoy your weekend. This is Rap Passport Show signing out for the night. Peace. take forever.